Joe Biden has pledged to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court. And Tulsi Gabbard, who is, of course, has been a longtime Democrat, but is sounding increasingly like a Republican these days, is not having any of it. So here's Debbie. Honey, this is Tulsi Gabbard. Biden's mistake: he should not be choosing a Supreme Court justice based on the color of their skin or sex, but rather on qualifications and commitment to uphold the Constitution. I mean, this is the traditional view.
Okay, that is the view. That should be the view for everything. I mean, who wants to be chosen for the color of their skin, really? I mean, because that is, to me, more demeaning than anything else. Because the fact that you're not choosing me for what I do, what I know, who I am, but rather what I look like. I mean,
well, one way to change that is to see the ridiculous. Imagine if Biden were to say, "Listen, everybody on the court happens to be at least 5'8".
Oh.
We need to have a short guy on the court. The court just doesn't look like America because, after all, there are some guys who are a little bit, underwater, so to speak, in the country.
So they need a token shrimp.
So let's find some guy who's like 5'5" or below, or perhaps a midget. But people would be like, what? What does this have to do with being a justice? Now, Tulsi Gabbard goes on to say, and I think this is a little more, she's almost turning the screw, Biden chose Harris as his VP because of the color of her skin and sex.
And look how that's worked out.
Not qualification. Yeah. She's been a disaster.
Yeah.
And now, ironically, there are some people who have actually suggested putting Harris on the court and sort of moving her out of the vice presidential. No,
that?
I've seen this. I've seen this from.
That is crazy.
Well, it's kind of a way to get rid of her as the potential successor.
Yeah,
so if you thought that she was going to be great, you now realize that she's a liability.
Right.
What better way to deal with her than to sort of move her off stage and put on some black robes?
Yeah.
And then. So that's a possibility. Apparently, though, well, I was thinking back to the Reagan years, and when Reagan nominated Justice Scalia, he said, I'm happy to be nominating a man who will be the first Italian American to the Supreme Court. So I don't want to imply that there's something, that's so shocking about ethnic politics that presidents don't take into account that there is some significance to this sort of thing.
Right.
I think the problem here is just simply that everybody knows that Biden is going to go for an ideologue.
Yeah.
Now, Lindsey Graham, interestingly enough, is pushing for him to pick a woman from South Carolina, and her name is Childs, Childs. She's evidently a judge on the district court for South Carolina, and she's a nominee to go on the D.C. Court of Appeals. But apparently, Graham and House Minority Whip, this is Clyburn from South Carolina, they're pushing Childs to be Biden's nominee. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Is this woman, what kind of politics does she, because as you know, picking women or men liberal on this court is actually picking an activist for their side. Whereas when we do it, that's not the case. So it's important that people understand that they are picking an activist. So,
well, yeah, I think they're looking for someone who's more in the Sotomayor-Kagan mold. Because
well, they're activists.
Yeah, but I mean, Breyer was too. But you could tell that with Breyer there was a certain moderation of temperament.
He was a little more old school.
Old school. He was willing to side with the conservatives on certain key issues. I think religious freedom being a notable one.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not confident. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Childs. My guess is the fact that Lindsey Graham is pushing her, to me, suggests that maybe she's not a complete radical. Now, obviously, Clyburn would not support her if she wasn't on the progressive side.
Right.
And we should have no illusions. Biden's not going to pick, Carol Swain. He's not going to pick Candace Owens. He's not going to pick a conservative. He's going to pick someone who's...
I would represent pretty much every ethnicity known to man.
Actually,
and race.
If they wanted a Black Native American Latina of Spanish descent. I mean, in that sense, you look like America all by yourself.
The world. I represent the world.
Right. So there are two forms of diversity. One is to pick like a full-blooded Indian, that's me,
Yep.
and full-blooded this and a full-blooded that, and then match them all together, and you get looks like America that way.
Yep.
Or just pick you, because you're such a amalgam that diversity is achieved in a single spot.
But you know what's really funny is when I was younger, when I was in school, I never wanted to put down my ethnicity. Why? Because I didn't want anyone to treat me any differently. Of course, I had, my last name was Cestero, so there was no doubt that I was.
I mean, I laugh. You have a funny story about how a teacher was like, "Wait a minute, Debbie, Cestero, aren't you Hispanic? Aren't you Latina?" And you denied it.
Right, and sometimes my mom would say, "Are you ashamed of being a Latina?" And I would say, "Mom, no, but I don't want to wear it on my sleeve. I don't want that to be my identity." And unfortunately, that has become the thing to be.
I mean,
these
we
days,
have moved so far away from the race-blind ideal, and so. This is the culmination of it. I mean, we're now not just talking about having a campus that looks like America, but when you take it the Supreme Court, where you think you'd want the best legal minds in the country, you'd want to have people who have a fidelity to the Constitution. I mean, let's come back to Tulsi Gabbard and her conclusion. She says identity politics is destroying our country, and I would have to agree.
Absolutely.